launch us on YouTube.
We're good.
Wonderful.
I have to leave at about 5 or 10 minutes after 5.
Okay. We will still be good for quorum because it's 6 members we need. And we'll be able to continue.
I have to leave at about 5 or 10 minutes after 5.
Todd, can you just mute your mic? We're getting some feedback. There we go. All right. So thank you for letting me know, Larry. We'll get as far as we can before then. And I don't expect it will take much longer than that in any case. Well, though, not for me to decide. First is the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting. Could I have a mover for that? I believe moved by Larry, seconded by Andrea. All those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody opposed, please indicate so in the chat or open your mic to express your intent. Oh, we lost Larry, but the motion passes. There he is again. Great. All right, the next is the declaration of pecuniary interest. We have those that have already been recorded. I know, Donna, you wanted to declare as well for the previous, for each of the items. So we have that noted. Thank you very much. So Donna will step out for the remainder of the meeting. And then we will have, we had Heather declare a conflict in relation to...
You can just run through the list, Sean, really quick if you'd like.
Perfect.
Okay, so A. Moore declared conflict with item 4.1.3. M. Bouchard declared conflict with items 4.1.4 and 4.1.6. Larry Whalen declared conflict with item 4.1.3. H. Bott declared a conflict with items 4.1.7 and 4.1.9. Sean Meades declared conflict with items 4.1.15. And Kathy Fisher declared conflict with items 4.1.7.
Splendid. Thank you so much, Tom. And Miranda isn't with us tonight, so we don't have a vice chair. I will have to step out when you discuss the funding for the Friendship Center's application. So if I could have a volunteer for vice chair responsibilities this evening. Maybe we'll, Heather, I see a hand. Thank you. Well, splendid. Okay, moving along. We have the adoption of the agenda. Thanks, Donna. Is there a mover for the agenda? Moved by Heather, seconded by Jordan. Just to be clear, Jordan, you're raising your hand to second the motion, not to ask a question. Is that right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So the motion is on the floor. All those in favor, sorry, if there's any discussion, please indicate so. Oh, sorry, I saw, I'm late to the chat here. Todd Jordan declared conflict with the conservatory application. So we'll respect that as well, of course. All those in favor, please remain silent on the adoption of the agenda. Anyone opposed or abstaining, indicate so in the chat or open your mic. Motion passes. So moving on to item 4, business arising, the Arts and Cultural Assistance Program applications. So at our last meeting, first of all, thank you all for what was a very long meeting. Thank you for giving us your all of your attention that day. We concluded the process of reviewing individual scores and sharing assessments of each of the applications. You can see in the revised spreadsheet that has been shared with you, that they have been reordered in order of those that scored the highest, have the highest ranking, where those that have the lowest are at the bottom. So you can see on column G, this is the average total score that has been summarized for each of the applications. The next item that we will go to is related to assessing the final tally of funding to be proposed to council. We don't say awarded because ultimately only council awards it, but we make the recommendation for what they award. You'll notice that there is a column for the maximum eligible funding. So this is based on the funding criteria for the various streams that they have applied for. We did receive some correspondence from the Subcommittee Theatre Centre. This is not germane to the assessment, or we won't discuss this. You don't, Alicia and Larry, you don't have to leave the room yet, but just to say that we had some clarifying comments from them that provided some context that relate to their eligibility. So that has been revised in what you see before you. There's also the average recommended funding. This is based purely on those that did submit recommended amounts. Most people, well, I shouldn't say most people did, but many people, myself included, did not. So the process that that I'll propose that we undertake is essentially that, similar to our scoring, we'll go one by one and ask each of the members to weigh in on what you feel is an appropriate level of funding for that applicant. And then we'll hopefully come to an agreement before moving on to the next one. I see your hand, Todd. I'll just finish explaining this.
Sean, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'll just finish explaining. There was a discussion around revisiting the threshold that had been established. So our earlier discussion set that at a level of 7. So that would essentially remove one of the existing applicants. But there was a desire expressed at the last meeting to revisit the threshold, perhaps to increase it. So we'll begin our discussion with that. But before that, Todd, did you have a clarifying comment?
Yes, Sean. So for the Sioux Community Theatre Center, I put in, there was a couple choices that I had sent out to the committee to decide which final amount for their.
Sorry, I'm just going to mute you quickly, just because the decision around that we can't take with Alicia and Larry in the room. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No worries, but there is something that we will revisit in the session. But thank you for it is important to draw attention to that because it's a matter of it has consequences, I guess. All right. We'll begin with the discussion around the threshold. Not predetermined, but the original threshold that we established was 7. I'll just go in order of where I see people's boxes. Heather, do you have thoughts on the threshold?
I was fine with 7 being established as a threshold, and I did not change my mind.
Okay, great. Andrea?
I mean, 7 is less than 50% of the score. So, just it gives me some concern that they're not even, meeting half in terms of a score. And, it just does end up having an impact if we, then have to pull that money from all of the other much higher ranking ones. So I think, whether we have a threshold where we have a percentage that we reduce each allotment by, I still think, 8 would be, even so, that's not going to change it. But as a matter of principle, 8 is a better cutoff because it is above half. It still doesn't change our situation, though, where I think, we're going to have to be reducing everyone's funding significantly to be able to fit into the budget, unless we carry over into next year's. So that brings, up the matter of funding less, probably maybe lower ranking applications over ones that might be coming up in the next stream that might be higher quality.
Right. Thanks, Andrea. Alicia, thoughts?
No, I was satisfied with the 7.
Okay. Larry?
I'm satisfied with 7.
All right. Jordan?
I was also satisfied with 7.
Okay. So as Andrea noted, the whether it's 7 or 8, doesn't have a material consequence this time. And of course, each time we do the review, we would revisit the question of the threshold. But with 7 established as the cutoff, that takes the music career development workshop out of the consideration for the fund. So I think we can do that. Although, as with any applicant, I think that we would express to them, please do reapply and take the feedback that is received by Todd, and certainly avail yourself of the support that that he and the office can provide. All right. So the majority seem content with 7, and however, Andrea raises another point that is related to thresholds, which is, did we want to set ranges where requests would be reduced by a certain percentage based on those scores? Maybe we'll go, so as an example, say, and I'm pulling numbers out of my hat, but say anything below a 10 but above a 7, you reduce the request by 25% or something like that, right? Just as an example of how that would work. Is that something that you would be interested in pursuing? We'll do in reverse order. Jordan?
Sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
No problem. So essentially, the suggestion is that we have different ranges based on the scores. So that would have consequences for what percentage of their total ask or their total eligible ask they would be eligible for. So for instance, if it was between 10 and 8, we might reduce it by 25% or 50% or whatever the range is, just to get us closer to the maximum number that we can will get us closer to the $79,500, where right now we are at $145,000 and change.
Yeah, I remember we discussed that last time that we were a bit over, and I think that would be probably a pretty adequate way of mediating that issue.
Great. And so bearing in mind that the highest score that can be achieved is 15 and the lowest is 7 based on who's eligible now. What do you have suggestions for ranges? It's okay not to, but I open it up for discussion. What are your thoughts, Jordan?
Just because I didn't take part in the actual scoring process, and I didn't really end up looking in detail about exactly how much funding each group was requesting, I'm probably just going to abstain from providing my insight on that.
Sounds good. No worries. Larry, do you prefer a range? And if so, what would you recommend for ranges?
I'll say my piece because I'm not going to be here long.
Right.
Math and I have not always been the best of friends, but I think with the if number 21 is out because it's below the threshold, we're short about 13,100 and change, which comes
not
to
quite, because sorry, just to provide you some context, column N is based on the average of those recommendations that people submitted. Not all committee members submitted recommended funding amounts because they wanted to wait for the discussion before assessing the recommended funding.
Well, that makes me a little upset because it was not easy scoring and it took a lot of time. And I do not appreciate that. So let me continue my point. You don't have to agree with it, but if everybody was reduced, the averages were reduced by 17%. That would work it out. It seems to me 25%, 50% is arbitrary. You're gonna.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how you're going to make it come out. You're going to be a long time.
Yeah, it's definitely the assigning of those ranges is essentially an arbitrary decision. But you have to, if one chooses to do so, and it is an if, how you motivate the choice is. So what I'm hearing from you is that you would prefer just an across the board reduction. Is that correct?
I think it's fair, and it still maintains the ranking systems and all the work we put into it. What's this, the third meeting? And I spent the better part of a day going through all this.
Yes. So, sorry to clarify, if you apply the same reduction to all the applicants, it doesn't actually reflect the scoring.
Then what good is the scoring?
No, see, I'll give you an example. If you were to take the $5,729 that's requested by On Guard for Thee, and you were to say all applicants are reduced by 17%, then they are going to receive more funding than the Strawberry Moon Collective that rated higher, because they're all being reduced by the same percentage. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but now we're going into another scoring. I've said my piece.
Okay, Andrea?
Yeah, so I think we did we not do this last time? Rather than taking, sections where there's certain percentages, we can just multiply the requested amount or the eligible amount by the score that they received. Out of a function of, if they scored 90%, they get 90% of the funding. If they scored 70 or 60%, they're getting 60% of the funding. I think last time that worked out fairly close to what it should be, and then all the scores are being honored.
Oh, okay, so I think that speaks to your concern, Larry. And maybe we'll just, rather than waste spending more time, we'll just look at heads and chat.
That speaks to my concern. I'd be very happy with that.
Great. Okay, so I'll plug these unless there's concern about that. Yeah, I'll plug that in. If anybody has a concern about that, please indicate so in the chat. Oops, nope. Okay. Bear with me.
You're not going to make me do this when I have to take over as chair, are you?
John, do you want the numbers? I've got them all because you should be able to just paste the formula all the way down.
No, because I'm taking them from the different from column G. Although I should.
Yeah,
actually,
if you just go
You're right.
to you just go to column G and you multiply that, or you divide that by 50 and then multiply it by the max recommended.
There you go. You're right. Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to 110,000. So we're down from 147,649 to 110,474. So that leaves us with 30,974 to shave off. So with that, sorry, let me collapse some of these columns so that we can see them together. All right, so with that, you can see that in column O, this is the amount of funding that is based on the scores. Let me just make sure that I've included the right calculus each time. Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, there's some, sorry, I'm in order, but like I'm getting 17,143 for the conservatory. Yeah, I've got slightly different numbers that are.
Let's see if it makes a
Some are the
difference
same though.
if I change that number to this. Okay, it must have rounded for some reason. So let me just make sure that that's consistent. Great. So, yeah, 110,391 is our total ask. So again, we're about just shy of 31,000 that needs to be removed. And this may merit revisiting the idea of some of the ranges, that perhaps they may be reduced by a greater amount going below. However, I do want to point out that per Todd's original point, the with respect to the box office grant request, the discrepancy between the potential choices there is moot now, because the maximum number of the maximum funding there is below either of those ceilings. So there's no need for Alicia or Larry to go for us to have a separate conversation about that. I open it to the floor for any suggestions for how to proceed. Heather?
Okay, so I'm just looking at my the Excel sheet that was sent to me because I can't quite see all of your screen, Sean.
Oh, sure.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, so we know for sure that the music career development workshop was below the threshold, so that one will come off, I'm assuming, as 0. The following two, On Guard for Thee and Good Deeds. Now, did that threshold change? Can you just double check, because I can't see on mine.
Sure. So they received an 8.1 and an 8 respectively.
Okay.
So they're still included in the
Okay.
Distribution.
Okay, because I was going to suggest for some of these applicants, based off of their ask and what their final scoring is, will some of them be able to really implement using some of the grant dollars that are here? Like, for example, I think like Stitches of the Heart, like I mean, there's some, but I mean, do we maybe take the lowest? Maybe do we have another percentage? Like, I was just thinking based on the old numbers, do we just say like, say $500? Is that really gonna help them implement something? You know, like, is that, you know, but I mean, based off recommended funding, I mean, when you add that in there, I mean, the numbers are pretty consistent. Do we have another range of percentages to take that off? Like, as Andrew wrote up, like if you're scored this, we still have to take some, we just don't have enough allocation. That's what it comes down to. We just do not have enough. It's overprescribed. So, oh, I see Andrew with her hand up. I'm going to stop talking.
No problem. Andrea?
Yeah, I mean, this is the really challenging thing with doing any grant reviewing. You know, when this is done at the OAC, there's, you know, a massive amount of grants, a tremendous amount of work also being done on reviewing them. And, you know, you end up having to be a bit more critical with the cutoffs. And, you know, even if we did the cutoff at 10, we're still going to be over budget. We could do a combination of, you know, saying, you know, maybe everything at 11 and above gets the current recommended funding, and then everything else below gets reduced another amount, or everything then gets reduced an additional 10%. You know, because what is, if we see like the math on our overall percentage, the 30% or 30,000 over is anyway, so I'm just rambling now, but kind of get the idea.
Yeah, I think we have a concrete suggestion here that we can float. So, oh, sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
I guess just one more thing, like we're likely going to have more and more applications. So I think a bigger thing to think about is like, maybe, you know, we can't have them all adjudicated in the same sections when they're such vastly different projects under different maximums.
Mm-hmm.
or we just have to get more rigorous with the cutoff line.
Right. And so those last comments, I think I'm interpreting them as something for us to consider moving forward, and that the right now what we consider is either an across the board reduction that would bring us closer, or below, let's say 11, those get reduced. That's your thought, Andrea? Okay, I see Jordan has a hand up.
Yeah, I agree with Andrea. I was thinking about that when we were having the struggles about raising that the threshold to about probably 11 and above. I think that would cut off a lot, and then doing some type of like agreeing on some type of reduction that would allow us to reach our goal.
Thanks, Jordan. Heather, your thoughts?
I agree with Andrea and Jordan. I think that's probably the most fair at this point.
Great. And Larry? You're on mute, just so you know.
Yeah, it's a conundrum, isn't it? I don't know what I think about it. I'm always sensitive to to applying the same kind of rule to everybody, and I don't know why, but I feel a little more comfortable. It would be a little more equitable if everybody bore the same going down, because it's not their fault, it's our fault. So everybody just suffers because of our lack of funds. The other is very arbitrary, it'll work, but I don't know.
Thanks, Larry. And Alicia? And then I see Andrea's hand is up.
I'm not sure, to be honest. So I'm just gonna think about it a bit. That's okay.
No worries. So I have 1 for across the board, 1 unsure, and 3 for a reduction below 11. Andrea, do you have an additional thought?
I guess just to Larry's point, I mean, I think, if we've gone through this process of grading them. So to me, that is more equitable rather than, treating it equally, which doesn't take into account the variations in the scores that we gave them or that, we considered.
All right, so it looks like we're still at the a 3, 1, and 1. So I think that is essentially the majority of the voting members. So the proposal was below 11. So what would you suggest as a further reduction? Maybe an additional 20%? Should we, do you want me to just plug in 20% to see what the implications would be?
Sure. Otherwise, I'll try and figure out the ratio of the total, but probably that's a good place to start. So once you do it to 1, you can just copy paste to the whole rest of the column.
Yep. So that brings us to 25,000. Thank you, Larry. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your patience. I know that it's a difficult process, so thank you for all of your efforts. Take care. All right, so that leaves us still with 25,000 to shave off.
And then we just move that up further, or
Yep.
or take 10% off the next section, like up to 12 maybe, or
Sure.
10% off the entire thing if we have to. But I still think it should be based on percentages.
Let's try a 10% reduction up here. Don't know what. Sorry. There we go. So that saved us 2,000. So how about we increase both of these by 10%? So a 70% of the ask for those below 11 and 80% for those below 12. Okay, down to 18,000 over.
I think we have to take some off the top ones too. Like another 5 or 10. But I think it should be less than the other ones.
So let's say 5. Let's start with 5.
It's going to have a bigger impact with those larger allocations.
Okay, 15,000 left. So how about below 12, we go for 75%?
I mean, this is like when I've been in discussions about this at the OIC, usually their strategy is that you're taking out so much of the project asked at a certain point that you're not
making it
depends
viable.
on so they're better to be reapplying.
And that may be what we want. I mean, that's a valid suggestion for the floor to consider, right? Maybe below this, where did we have it? Yeah, below 11, should we be encouraging them to reapply? Heather?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that we should consider for some, because like as we've gone through this threshold of percentages, I mean, $792, I would rather see this organization reapply, for example, like just as an example, this one. I'd rather just see a new application. That's just, because I mean, like I was bringing up before, once we start doing this, is that enough to even put towards anything? If the original was, I think, what, 1,600 something, that's a significant reduction. So
right. One thing to consider also is that one of the applications, the Historic Harvest Fest, did indicate both streams and both early and late. So they moved their application up early, but have signaled that they would have originally maybe applied in a later stream. It's hard for us, though, to really read intent into an application, so I hesitate to suggest that. Andrea?
In our application, did we have a box to check whether they could go ahead, or that's one of the questions usually on OAC projects applications is, can your project go ahead, or what are your alternate funding streams? Are you going to be able to do this without the grant?
That wasn't specifically asked. However, there were questions about start date.
But again, something to think about for the future application packages.
Absolutely. All right, so I've heard two preferences for essentially removing the lower scoring applications. Andrea?
Well, and we probably, let's just see what happens when we take out the ones going up. I mean, up to 10 is not going to be enough. So we're pretty much, gonna have to go to 11 since the other ones are.
So if we go to 11, then we have $2,000 remainder. And that's with a cut to the others of 20% for those under 12 and of 5% for those above.
Plus the initial reduction based on score.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, yikes.
so this is, and you know, in terms of, I know you can speak to this as well, Andrea, but for those of you that haven't served on juries with Canada Council or Ontario Arts Council, sometimes juries do decide to essentially have the cutoff floor, and under that, you know, people are encouraged to reapply, but ultimately they don't receive the funding. So this is not out of the ordinary, and it is challenging because everybody is deserving of pursuing their artistic practice, but we have fewer resources to disperse. So I haven't heard from Alicia or Jordan. I don't know if you wanted to chime in further.
No, I'm pretty comfortable with this. I'm looking at the dollar amounts and the values here, and I'm liking how this is shaping up over 11.
Great. Heather, thoughts?
This is really hard this year.
It is.
It's difficult because you're right. Every applicant has merit in their idea and their project and their goal. And it is difficult to make these decisions because there's not enough allocation. Like, it's not like we don't see merit in all of these. It's just, I'm just having a hard time with what I'm seeing. I realize it's fair and we've gone through the process. It's just, if you want to come back to me, I'm going to think about this a little more.
No worries. Andrea?
I mean, yeah, it's super challenging and sad as well, in many ways, but you know, otherwise, if we have to, you know, apply a way larger reduction across all of them, is it going to be worthwhile?
Okay, so the general mood that I'm sensing is that this is not fun, but fair, based on the circumstances. A question that I have for the group is, you know, we are a little under 2,400. Do you want to carry that forward to, do you either want to readjust the amounts of the reduction, or do you want to essentially carry that 2,400, if we're able to, I'll check in with Todd on that, to the next intake? And then maybe some of these could reapply and actually potentially be more eligible for achieving it. Alicia?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we should do. I don't think it makes sense to try and allocate a small amount of money in trying to, I'm looking at these scores and everything else, and at this point, I don't think that we're able to fully fund anything to capacity at this point in a way that makes sense. So I'd really like to see this move forward to the next round. Great.
I see some heads nodding. Seems to be, if anybody opposes, please do express your opinion. All right. Heather, you said to come back to you. To me, this is appearing like the final list and the final recommended amounts based on people's expressed thoughts so far. How do you feel?
It is what it is. And I agree. If we can move that, I guess, under amount to the next, because I suspect we're going to have a lot of applications in the late, that would be great. Certainly we want to see applicants that were not, you know, didn't make it through this round. I'd like to see them reapply, you know, in the future. It is what it is. We have to do. So.
Fair enough. Andrea?
Yeah, I think carry the funds forward, because I think we are going to have increasing numbers of applications, and we just need to work as a committee to advocate for more funding.
Absolutely. And Jordan?
Yeah, I totally agree with Andrea and Heather. I think we should just continue advocating for more funding and then kind of decide upon our course of action once we see how the applicants that come in.
Perfect. Okay, so I see a consensus emerging. Todd, are we able to carry that 2,400 to next intake?
When we were making these, we made it flexible that money could be moved back and forth
Wonderful.
between the intakes. And if there was any left over at the end after the second intake, that would be allocated to those that were underfunded in the previous intakes. So I think we're okay with that. And that's something we can discuss further at the next meeting as well.
Okay. Well, with that, it sounds like we have sorry, let me just take a screenshot before I mess up the formulas here, so that we have a record for our, before I remove the screen share. So what sorry, I have to stop sharing and then read the resolution. So the resolution based on these numbers would be resolved that the Cultural Vitality Committee approve the organizations as follows in that, actually, let me bring that up and share that. And endorse the organizations for grants under the Arts and Culture Assistance Program, and that a report be submitted to City Council for consideration and approval. So do I have a mover for this motion? Moved by Heather, seconded by Jordan. Is that what your hand is for, Jordan?
Yeah.
Great, just checking. All right, the motion is on the floor. If there's any further discussion, please indicate so. And I see none, so we'll go to a vote. All those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody opposed or abstaining, please indicate so in the chat or open your mic to express your intent. All right, the motion carries. So we have moved forward with the funding for 10 of the applicants from this round. So my thanks to each of you for all of what I know is a very arduous process. And also my thanks to all of the applicants, whether you were funded or not. I know that you all invested a lot of time and energy into your grants and into the projects that you're pursuing. And we hope that in the future we will have more resources to share. Todd, I will forward this to you for the final amounts. And let's see, the next item on our agenda is subcommittee and task force updates. I think that we don't have any, so that brings us to new business. I know that we've talked about revisions of input from this session, and probably best discussed at a longer dedicated session, unless there's any objections to that. I don't see any objections. All right, item number 7 is correspondence. Any correspondence with the group? No. Next meeting is January. Oh, sorry. It's January 19th.
Sean, I think it's December 15th, actually.
December 15th. Oh, okay. So just a small correction in the agenda there. So December 15th at 4:30. Oh, Virginia?
Sorry. I had put it as January just because the committee has had so many meetings and it's been very, very time consuming for everybody. We're getting very close to Christmas break, so I had pushed it to January, unless the committee would like to meet in 2 weeks.
What's the mood of the room? Jordan?
I would agree for January just because I'm like getting started like in exams and everything. Like this is my exam period, so I'm actually doing like homework while I'm listening to everybody. So like I'm kind of multitasking. So I would agree with the 15th of January.
That's fair, and thank you for your sacrifices. I see Heather nodding her head, Andrea smiling. So
Yeah, I mean, I agree in principle. I think there's a small chance, like a project that Todd and I are working on with the students, we were hoping to be able to bring to the committee much sooner, but I mean, yeah, we're all so busy. We need a break where we can.
Is the project that you would bring to the committee is it like a decision item or is it like an information sharing item?
I'm not sure, Todd.
I think it's down the road, definitely down the road. So waiting till the new year is fine.
Okay.
I don't think we'll be hitting anything that comes to a committee anytime soon.
Okay.
And it seems to be generally consensus for January, but Alicia, I don't want to leave you out. I know that's what are your thoughts?
No, that's okay. I also think January is probably best.
Okay, great.
And sorry about that for messing things up. I was just going on, I was looking at the doodle, or not the doodle, the scheduling.
It's not a problem.
Software in Zoom there, and we had it down as 15. So sorry about that.
Not a problem at all. And yeah, I want to express my very sincere thanks for everybody for sticking out through this process. And I think, over the course of our meetings in January and February, we can probably nail down some things that will speed this up next time. Like if we decide to have a consistent approach to adjudication, it'll speed things up. All right, Jordan, is your hands up new or was it just left up?
Oh no, sorry, I just forgot to take it down.
Not a problem. All right, so the now entertaining a motion to adjourn. Anybody want to do that? Moved by Heather, seconded by Andrea, and thirded by Jordan. So all those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody opposed, please indicate so in the chat or open your mic. Motion carries. Thank you all so very much. Have a great rest of your evening. And Andrea, maybe I'll see you shortly in one of those meetings.
Yes, I did ask for the start to be recorded in case we were late.
Okay, great.
See you on the other Zoom.
See you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you guys. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Sean, if you could send me that.
Oh, yes, of
spreadsheet,
course.
that would be great.
Yeah, and Jordan, you had a question? Oh, I guess Jordan just left.
Sean, it's David Helwig here.
Oh, David, hi, how are you?
Could I bother you to stay on after the others have left?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have to stay on because I'm the host. So.
Oh, okay. I had a couple questions. Is this appropriate?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
I mean, well, sorry, Todd, is it being broadcast to YouTube?
It's
right now?
still live. I guess I can turn that off. Actually, I think you can turn that off.
Oh,
Sean.
right, I'm the host.